Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So today we will study the section where we find that Bhagavat Pada Shankaracharya is needing the need for experiencing the self for the attainment of liberation, which is the sanam and the bonum of spiritual journey. Till we have realized the self, all the discussions on the self, they may be help in our preparation for the realization of the Atman. But if it doesn't lead to the realization of the Atman, they are of no avail. So, from the 56th to the 66th verse of Vivekachudamani, this is the trait which Shankaracharya, Adi Guru Shankaracharya, is going to highlight. So let us start with the 56th verse. What has been spoken of? Na yogena na sankhena karmana no na vidyaya brahmatmaikya bodhena moksha siddhyati nanyatha. So here we find that Adi Guru Shankaracharya, being the proponent of Advaita Vedanta, so from the pure Advaitic standpoint, he is saying that neither by the philosophy of the yoga, nor by Sankhya, nor through the Karma Kanda as has been indicated in the Vedas, and neither through the upasanas. There are various upasana, which we can say in the modern day to a certain extent is the bhakti, the idea of devotion to certain God, certain aspect of the divinity. So these are the various aspects through which we can proceed in our spiritual journey. So being a staunch proponent of Advaita Vedanta, he is decrying all of them. He is saying neither through yoga, nor through Sankhya, nor through the Karma Kanda, nor through Upasana, only through Brahmatmaikya Vodhena, the identity of the Atma with the Brahman. That I have the idea that I am the local conscious principle, but in reality, that local conscious principle is one with Brahma. The word Brahma came from Brih Dhatu. So according to Advaita Vedanta, the word Brih Dhatu means Brihat. There is only one non-local, non-dual consciousness. We are all one with that. Unless we realize that, there can never be any mukti or moksha. So, brahmatmaikya bodhena moksha siddhyati nanyatha. There is no other way. Na anyatha. There is no other way. So, being a staunch proponent of Advaitic Vedanta, he is very, very particular that about the identity of the Brahman and the Atman, which alone can lead to the liberation, nothing else. So let us try to understand from the perspective of the Advaita Vedanta that why he is saying so. So now you will find that in the yoga, in the Sankhya philosophy, there is the idea of duality. The ultimate reality is not one. So there is the Prakriti, the nature is there, and there are infinite number of Purushas. Each and every individual being is a separate, segregate Purusha, the conscious principle. And this conscious principle, this segregate conscious principle, when they come in association with the Prakriti, because of ignorance, then this phenomenal existence comes into being. So now, what's the liberation? It is the idea of Kaivalya. that the separation of the Purusha from the Prakriti. Once you have gone through this experience, at last, that you have realized that you are always the unadulterated conscious principle, your association with the Prakriti makes the Prakriti active, and all the action, all the activities which is going on in the Prakriti, somehow I get deluded that it is mine. Prakriti by itself cannot act. It is inert. It needs the association of the Purusha. But once Purusha comes in association with the Prakriti, they give the example. It is just like a prism. Near a prism, you keep a red flower. The prism appears to be red. It doesn't become red. The tinginess, the color of the flower somehow permeates the prism and it appears that the prism is red, but actually it has not become red. Similarly, the moment the Purusha comes in association with the Prakriti, each of them take the other's property as if, not really. Prakriti, which is inert, appears to be conscious because of its association with the consciousness. Consciousness, which is never acting, appears to be going through all sorts of action because of its association with the Prakriti. Once, when the Purusha experiences, realizes that he is always fulfilled, there is no need for any action for him, and he develops that renunciation, and then the question of dissociation with the Prakriti comes, and then he understands that he is the Kevala Purusha. He alone exists by his own right. There is no need for him to be in association with the Prakriti, and this disjoin speaks of liberation. So now, in Advaita Vedanta, they say that whenever there is two, there is always fear. There is always fear that I may again get associated with the Prakriti. The way the ignorance has dawned and resulted in my phenomenal existence, it can again happen. So, as long as there are two, there is fear. So in Advaita Vedanta they say that only when you realize that you alone exist, nothing else exists, then only you can be fearless. Whenever there is two, there is always fear. The second entity can bind me, can harm me. When I am alone, who is going to harm me? When I exist through eternity, nothing else exists. Nothing can harm me. So that's the standpoint of Advaita. As the Yoga, as the Sankhya, even the Karma Kanda, what they speak of, they don't believe in as such Ishvara. The idea is that it is the karma and the laws of karma, the results of karma, that rules our destiny. Through good karma, we can attain the state of heaven, the Swarga Loka. And there we can enjoy eternal happiness. But in the Upanishads we find the idea is there that through some limited actions, however good actions may be do, it has certain limitation. It cannot be infinite. So through all those limited action, however good it may be, I may accrue a lot of merits and I may attain a state. So all these limited actions, how can that state be unlimited? So in the Vedas itself we find the idea is there, Kshine Punye Martya Lokang Vishanti. Kshine Punya, when all these, the results of your good deeds is exhausted, again you have to come down to this world of Martya Loka, the world where death is always roaming. That's why it's called Martya Loka. Mrityu is always there. So again you have to come down. So again there is a duality that yes, through actions you are going to a state which is not your nature. You attain something. It is prapti. It is not apti. In Vedanta, they speak of apti. What is that? That you are already that. Somehow you have forgotten. And when again because of knowledge, you realize your own nature, that is apti. It is not that you are gaining something. It was already with you. You somehow forgot about it. So again, you develop the awareness of it and get established in it. But here, through karma, you are attaining certain state from where there is a chance again we may come down. So again, there is a fear. The factor of fear acts in karma kanda. In upasana, the same thing. That through my devotion, I can be associated with the divine. But again, because of ignorance, because of distraction, I may again, there can be vichyuti. Again, I have to come down to this world of phenomenal existence. So wherever there is duality, there is fear. In the Puranas, there are many stories that the rishis, the one who are in the exalted state, because of some small distraction, coming down to this level of phenomenal existence. That wherever there is duality, there is a fear. But once you realize you alone exist by your own right, nothing exists, then from whom you have to fear? There is no question of fear. And fearlessness alone is the sign of liberation. So this is the way of reasoning of the Advaitic Vedanta. As we are studying the Advaitic Vedanta, to do justice to the Advaitic Vedanta, we just resort to the explanation which Advaita Vedanta gives to explain the fact that only through Brahma and Atma's identity, the awareness of its identity, moksha is possible by no other means. So now let's go to the next, that after saying that, so what this Brahmatmaikya Bodha means. Brahma Atma Aikya Bodha. The identity of the Brahman and the Atman. What it means? Is it just some verbal what is it? This declaration that I profess that I am Brahman. I just say. Does it mean that? Or some good deliberation of the Advaitic Vedanta, being a scholar in the Advaitic Vedanta, a erudite scholar of Advaitic Vedanta, I may give a wonderful explanation. Does that mean that I have developed the awareness of my identity of the Atman and the Brahman? So no. So religion is realization. As Swami Vivekananda again and again stressed the need of realization. It's not something that I intellectually conceive. It is something which I realize. So until through our spiritual journey, through all our spiritual practices, I go to a certain type of realization where I am convinced of the fact that I am not this limited local consciousness. I am one with that non-dual, non-local consciousness. Till then, however I may profess, it's of no use. It may just help in entertaining others a little through all those deliberations, and there it ends. So to explain that, Shankaracharya will be resorting to certain allegories in the next verse. What he's saying in the 57th verse, this Vinaya Rupa Saundaryam. Vinaya Rupa Saundaryam Tantri Vadana Shaushthavam Praja Ranjana Matram Tat Na Samrajyaya Kalpate. The one who plays on the veena. The veena, the veena instrument itself is very beautiful. So Vinaya Saundaryam, you will find that when we go to just witness some musical instrument like veena, just the musician comes and with the instrument he's sitting, that setup itself will first you will find is giving you certain sort of entertainment. The musical instrument with its wonderful shape and everything, that entertains you. Then when this musician starts playing Tantri Vadana Shaushthavam, and he is an adept player, he is really an expert, he is extremely skilled. So he starts enthralling the audience. That we really appreciate that. But after hearing that play of the veena, can we ever think that as he plays the veena so nicely, he has the capacity to rule a kingdom? No. Yes, he has developed the skill of playing the veena, and with that he entertains the people, and there it ends. To rule a kingdom, a different type of skill, lot of power, lot of valor is required. So, though this too has different benchmarks. To rule a kingdom, it's a different benchmark. That as nowadays, of course, in politics we find that if anyone is a good actor, he tends to be a politician. Everyone tends to be a politician because the vote counts. So that way, everyone is going to be the MPs and the MLAs. We find as the trait, not in in many countries we find, even in India we find. But does a real entertainer, just by entertaining the people through all those music and acting, develops the skill for really ruling the kingdom? He may get votes, but he cannot really be a ruler. So that's the idea which Shankaracharya is indicating here. So what actually means? By this he means that someone may be an adept in wonderful deliberation of the Advaitic Vedanta, an exponent, is a Pandit. Through that he enthralls the audience. But there it ends. All will be appreciating, but it in no way will be transforming the lives. It's only a lamp can light another lamp. Only one. So Ramakrishna, in the life of, if you see the life of Sri Ramakrishna, he used to stammer. His language was extremely colloquial. In those days, in Calcutta, there were so many famous orators, Keshav Chandra Sen and Pratap Chandra Majumdar. There were many. But at last we find whose message still, what you say, that creates a deep impression in the mind of the general people, is a man of realization. You see, all the prophets, the words of Jesus are simple words. The words of Ramakrishna are simple words. They come directly from the realization. The other exponents, it may help us in entertaining, but there its purpose ends. It's only through spiritual practice, when we go to the realization, that alone can speak of becoming the king of the spiritual world, the emperor of the spiritual world. Otherwise, all those exponents are just meant for entertainment. So that's through that allegory, Shankaracharya is trying to indicate that realization alone is the sanam and the bonum of spiritual journey. So the beauty of a Veena's form and the skill of playing on its chords serve merely to please a few persons, but they do not suffice to confer sovereignty. Means it doesn't give you the capability to rule a kingdom. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 57th verse. So all these exponents can entertain others, but in no way ensures your liberation. And then in the 58th, what he's saying is to explain. That first he gives this allegory, and now he's relating this allegory to our real spiritual journey. What he's saying in the 58th, Vak Vaikhari, Shabdajhari, Shastra Vyakhyana Kaushalam, Vaidushyam, Vidushang Tatvat, Bhuktaye, Natu Muktaye. Vak Vaikhari. This loud speech, Shabdajhari, consisting of showers of words. Shastra Vyakhyana Kaushalam, the skill in expounding the scriptures. Vaidushyang Vidushang Tadvak. And likewise, this erudition, you expound the scriptures, and when you are having a dialogue with others, again you show the scholarly erudition. So in all these fields, you show your skill in expounding the scripture, in showcasing your erudition, your scholarly expositions. And this will bring merely personal enjoyment to the scholar. So bhuktai means they may result in enjoyment, a type of enjoyment for the scholar, natu muktai, but they are not in any way going to help you in liberation. They are not good for liberation. So this Vag Vaikhari. So this Vaikhari makes us, aware of the four divisions of speech which has been spoken of in our scriptures. They say the words which we are speaking is just the final expression. But the real speech starts in the Muladhara Chakra. They say Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. These are the four evolutes of speech. It starts with Para. It originates in the Muladhara. So where it is just the undifferentiated sound. It is a Shabda Brahma. The sound has just originated. And then it finds expression as Pashyanti in the heart, Anahata Chakra. What? It manifests as the undifferentiated form to the corresponding word. What it actually means? First, all the sounds are hidden inside the Om. Om represents the entire vocabulary. That's the Shabda Brahma. From that Om, all the other limited words have come. So these are bit technical ideas, discussions, but you will find it's not very difficult to understand. That from Om, now you see a flower. So that corresponding to that flower, in your language, there is a word for it. So first, what happens, that Omkara, the Shabda, when it sees that flower, now that the limited version of that Om will get converted into the word which represents that flower. So it is a rose. In English, you will say it is a rose. So why Om represents all the sound? You will find that in the Omkara is the least differentiated sound. It has three components, A, U, Ma. A is the sound which originates in the vocal cord. U is something like rolling from the vocal cord to your lips. It's a rolling sound. And Ma, your lips close. When the lips close, then you pronounce Ma. Now in pronouncing this Om, A, U, Ma, your tongue is in no way used. Now they say, it's a very interesting thing, this is the most least undifferentiated sound, Om. Now, if I see a flower, say it's a rose, and I say rose, then what happens? Now in pronouncing Om, I obstruct the pronunciation of Om with the tongue in a particular way. You will say R, Ra. Your tongue is touching the palate. So now the tongue comes into the picture. It will be obstructing that undifferentiated sound in a particular way to give that particular word for a particular thing. Nama, Rupa. So you will find that's why in Sanskrit all the varnas are there. Ka, kha, ka, ka varga, cha varga, ta varga, ta varga, pa varga. You will find all the ka varga. What's happening? Ka, kha, ga, gha. The middle of the tongue is touching the palate. Cha, cha, ja, jha. The tip of your tongue is touching the upper jaw. Above that is upper jaw, means the teeth, behind the teeth. Cha, cha, ja, ja. Ta, you have to roll your tongue and then it touches the palate. Ta, tha, da, dha. Ta, varga. So a very scientific way they have done. So the tongue is obstructing the undifferentiated sound in a particular way to create all the varnas. Ta, your tongue is touching the teeth, the upper teeth. Pa, here only the lips are touching each other. Pa, 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 ma. So now this covers all the gamut of the sound produced within the mind, within the mouth, where the undifferentiated sound is getting obstructed in a particular way with the tongue. So that's why they say that when I see a form, every sound starts with that Om, which is undifferent shout, and now that form, which is just a limited expression of the absolute reality. Corresponding to that, a sound is also a limited aspect of that ultimate Shabda Brahma. This represents this. So what they are saying, that para finds expression as Pashyanti. Pashyanti just means seeing. When you see the flower. Now, when I see the flower, that the form, whatever may be the language, the idea which develops in my mind, the artha, the idea, is same for all. Whether your mother tongue is English, whether it is Bengali or it is Hindi, the form is same for all. Now, corresponding to your language, a particular word will evolve. So they say when Pashyanti, these two are mixed. Just the sound is about to evolve, where the form is prominent. The sound is just like a bud within it. And then comes Madhyama. It manifests in the mind as distinct word. Now you know, you're yet to speak, but the word you can hear in your mind, that is Madhyama. And Vaikhari is at last, the distinct word articulated. Those who read mind, the science behind it is they can just dive deep into your mind to see that Pashyanti and Madhyama. That there is an art of doing that. So there's Pashyanti, that even sometimes it may so happen that you are yet to even think in your mind. The mind reader can just find it by diving deep into the heart of the production of the sound, and can find out that what you are going to speak. So sometimes you will find even before you have spoken something, he or she has written. And after you speak, then she shows. Means what you are going to think as if she knows previously. So it's actually a science, a vast science. We are not going to deep into it, but as the word Vaikhari is there, from where it has originated, to just give an idea, we brought into the discussion these 4 divisions of speech: Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. So this Vaikhari is a distinct word articulated through the vocal cord. This is the last, most gross expression. So those who haven't realized, this is something like Ativada. They are speaking something which is beyond their realization. So it just creates noise. It's just shower, Shabda Jhari. So with this, what will happen? You develop the skill in expounding the scriptures, and likewise erudition, and this brings some personal enjoyment. Bhuktai, natu muktai. It won't result in liberation. So this verse says that the loud speech consisting of the shower of the words, Vag Vaikhari, Shabda Jhari, and the skill in expounding the scriptures, the Shastra Vyakhyana Kaushalam, and erudition, that is means by the Vaidushyam. You are an erudite scholar, Vidusha. That's the Sanskrit word for erudition. This can just merely bring a little personal enjoyment to the scholar, but are no good for liberation. And then the next verse, what it is saying? Avigyate pare tattve shastradhitistu nishphala vigyate api pare tattve shatradhististu nishphala. Shankaracharya is a poet. Through these verses, he is expounding some wonderful ideas. First sentence, what it is saying? The study of scriptures is useless as so long as the highest truth is unknown. Avigyate pare tattve shastra adhiti stu nishphala. The study of the scriptures has no utility unless you have known the ultimate reality. And the next line, Vigyate api pare tattve shastra adhiti stu nishphala. And again, once you have known the highest truth, scripture is of no use. Then does scripture play no role? So it is a very nice way of saying. So the first line, what it means? That scripture do have a role to play. What's the role? It should take you to the realization that after hearing the scriptures, Sravana, I should cogitate upon it so that all the doubts which I have in my mind there gets clarified. I develop an intellectual conviction, and now my meditation starts. We cannot meditate till we have doubt. You should have certain conviction, and that meditation is on the conviction. That speaks of nididhyasana, and this meditation on the conviction will take you to the realization. And when you have gone to the realization, scriptures are not required anymore. But if I just, as per the previous sloka, have found some entertainment in expounding the scriptures, but it in no way motivates me to go to that realization through the process of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, scripture is of no use. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, it is good to be born in a church, it is horrible to die there. So what's the idea? The same thing. The church doesn't speak of any particular religion. That all the religion has its own scriptures. To resort to the scriptures, to discuss on the scripture is good, but it should motivate me to the practice. Sravana should lead to the manana, manana should lead to the nididhyasana. After listening the scripture, I should develop some intellectual conviction through the process of cogitation, manana, and then I have to contemplate on my conviction till it takes me to the realization. So if I have not done that, mere discussion is of no avail. For that, scripture is not going to serve any purpose. And once I have realized the truth, then again scripture is of no use. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that the first sentence, for the first line, the corresponding message of Sri Ramakrishna is that not a single drop of water oozes out by squeezing the almanac. In the almanac, it is written that this year there is a forecast that this year there is going to be torrential rain. But are you going to get even a single drop of water by squeezing the almanac? Nothing. Because it's a mere book. So as long as you don't get water, it is mere book. However, it may profess that you are going to torrential rain. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna used to teach his disciples, Naren, that you go and squeeze the almanac. Not a single drop of water will come. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the first line. Avigyate paritvatve shastradhitistu nishvala. Vigyate api paritatve shastradhitistu nishvala. For that, Sri Ramakrishna also we find has his wonderful parable that a person lost a letter. In the letter, it was written. Who has written? Most probably his son who stays in hostel. He has sent a list of things to be sent to him. And he lost the letter. And there was a lot of search. After searching, at last he found the letter. And then he arranged for the things as per the list which has to be sent to his son. After he has procured all the things, does the letter have any use? He will throw the letter now. As long as he have not procured the things, he was in search for the letter. Once he have procured, now this is of no use. So the second line means that Vigyate api. Once you have known the truth, the scriptures are of no use. It has served its purpose. As Bhagavan Buddha used to say, that no one carries the raft in his shoulder after crossing the river. The raft is there to help you to cross the river. And its purpose is served once you have crossed the river. Then you need not carry the raft on your shoulder. No one does that. It is only a fool who will do that. So no one carries the raft on his shoulder after he has crossed the river. Its purpose is served. So that's the idea in the second line. So it doesn't in any way mean that scriptures are not required. It is required. But we should know what we have to do with it. What's the benchmark? It's not just for entertainment or for intellectual gymnastics for intellectual entertainment. It is meant for realization. Once you have realized, its purpose is served. So that's the idea which is spoken of in the 59th verse. And then the 60th verse, again a very, very famous verse. It's oft quoted verse. What is Shankaracharya is saying? Shabda jalang maharanyam chitta brahmana karanam atah prayatnat gyatavyam tattvagyai tattvam atmana. Shabda jalam. This mesh of words, maharanyam. It's as if a forest of words. You will get bewildered. Chitta brahmana karana. Once you enter into the forest, you lose direction. In a dense forest, it's very difficult to find out the path. So scripture sometimes can be like a dense forest of words. You enter into it and now you are confused. You will sometimes find the most confused person are the scholars. So many ideas just create a hodgepodge in their mind and they cannot come to the conclusion. And that's the idea, that all these shabdas can lead to confusion. The scriptures consisting of many words are like the dense forest which merely cause the mind to roam about, to ramble. Atah prayatnat gyatavyam tattvagyai tattvam atmana. So what's the purpose of our life then? So the man of wisdom, tattvagya, is man of wisdom. He should earnestly set about knowing, prayatna. What should try? What's his endeavor? Prayatna means to endeavor. To know the truth, to know the true nature of the self. Tattvam atmana. That he has to realize that. Otherwise he will get lost in the words. How we get lost in the words? That so many times we give that example. That in the scripture, which are the words of the realized soul, after hearing that, if we simply go on discussing on it without trying to realizing on it, what will be our condition like? Just after hearing about the taste of mango from an authentic person who has tasted the mango, we all go on discussing on the taste of mango. From after hearing his words, instead of tasting the mango, we go on discussing. What we will find? Thousands of opinions. That will be confusing us. Because none have realized, none have tasted the mango. So various opinions develop. Some say mango is sweet because the one who have tasted the mango has told it is sweet and it has a type of fragrance. Now we try to relate these words with our available fund of experience. Instead of tasting the mango, we relate those words with our available fund of experience. Someone says it is sweet like the honey and it has a smell of jasmine, like this jasmine, because that's the experience he has. And that's what he's relating with these words. Someone said, no, it is as sweet as molasses. And it has a very nice fragrance of the rose. So you find thousands of opinions are being created because no one is trying to realize the taste of mango by tasting it. They're just discussing on the words of a person who have tasted the mango. And that creates the confusion. So what's the way out? That way out is go to the realization. Taste the mango. So that's the thing. So, atah prayatnat. What should be your endeavor? Gyatavyam. To know the tattvam atmana, the true nature of the self. So that's the thing which we all have to make that the goal of our life. So that's the thing which has been spoken. Otherwise, we will be just confused with the various ideologies. So that's why we find that in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, one day Narendranath, after reading some English book of some English philosopher, was discussing with others, and he quoted some sentence that after studying all the scriptures, a person becomes a learned fool, and then he starts searching for spirituality. So Ramakrishna never knew English, so he asked Naren to translate that what he has said, and then he translated it in Bengali, that after studying the scriptures, a person has become a learned fool. So these words are something wonderful, this learned fool. And then the real search for spirituality begins. So when Naren translated, Sri Ramakrishna, in his vocabulary, knew some 12 English words, a dozen. So one of them was thank you. So he just immediately said thank you to Naren. Thank you, thank you. So after when, because that's the idea which really impressed him. So Ramakrishna himself used to give in his own way a wonderful allegory to this idea, this Shabda Jala. He says, like reading the scripture is like hearing the noise of a marketplace from a distance. So from a distance, you can hear the noise, the humming noise of a marketplace. It's just a noise. But you can hear the distinct, all the sentences, what's the things being spoken of, the bargaining which is going on, once you're in the market. So reading the scripture is like hearing the humming noise of the market from a distance. Realization is going to the market. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So that's all the Shabda Jala is like just like that humming noise. It in no way will help us to reach the state of liberation. So then in the 61st verse, what is been spoken of? Ajnana sarpa dashtasya brahma jnana aushadhang vina kimu vedaischa shastraischa kimu mantrai kimaushadhai. So we have all been bitten by the serpent of ignorance. Ajnana sarpa dashtasya. And what's the only antidote for this venom of the serpent of ignorance? What is the only venom? Brahma jnana aushadham. That's the only remedy. The remedy is the knowledge of Brahman. Without that, just by merely studying the kimu vedaischa, shastraischa, kimu mantrai, kimaushadhai, that it is just like there is an antidote for the venom of a snake. But if you just go on discussing about the antidote, are you going to be cured or are you going to get rid of the effect of the venom? No. It has to be injected. That antidote has to be injected in your body. So that's what he's being saying. This kimu vedaischa, that the shastraischa, just mere discussing the Vedas and the Shastra, they have some purpose. That through Sravana, Manana, as we were just saying, through Sravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, after hearing them, you cogitate upon them, you develop some intellectual conviction, start meditating upon them, and that meditation will take you to that realization. Without doing that, simply discussing on the Vedas and the Shastras, or they may say that even in the West, they say that they had developed that idea that through drugs also you can go to a certain state of ecstasy, and that speaks of spiritual illumination. So that's the idea has been discussed even in our Shastras, that you go, that only through Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana you go to Samadhi. But is there some shortcut? Yes, there is some shortcut. That through reciting some mantra or resorting to certain drug, I can go to a altered state of consciousness. Then why go to that assiduous process of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana? Why not have that shortcut? So here Shankaracharya is making us aware, warning us that even through this mantra, that Aushadha, you can never have that ultimate realization. What's the basic idea? Why we don't have this? What the drugs do? That in the spiritual life, what through Sravana, Madana, Nididhyasana, at last, what's the realization which is going to dawn in your life? That this world of phenomenal existence is a projection. It's not real. Brahman, when it gets associated with the mind, it breaks into the spectrum of this world of name and form. So it is something paroksha. The self, in association with something, sees this world of name and form. If I can get rid of the mind, the self by itself, when it exists, the entire phenomenal existence collapses. Now, when you again come back from that state, a wonderful thing happens. that you went to that state through your spiritual practice where the entire phenomenal existence has collapsed, and then the mind, the thought evolves, again you see the world, but now you're a total transformed person. Why? As Swami Vivekananda used to give that wonderful example, that he was passing through the desert and he was thirsty. He saw some huge reservoir. He started proceeding towards it, and then suddenly the reservoir vanished, and then suddenly that idea came, oh, I have studied in the textbook about mirage. I thought I knew what mirage is. It was just an intellectual conviction. Today I realized. Today I really knew what it is. That realization happened. What's the difference? The next day when again I'm passing through a desert, as I am in my mind and senses, again I see the reservoir. But today it cannot drag me. So what has happened? That in our brain, there is a center of perception and there is a centers for emotion. These two synthesizes to give us the sense of mine. This is mine. You see your son, perception and that emotion comes together. If somehow that can be like amputed, that correction, it happens accidentally. We call it Capgras syndrome. Suddenly a person may get up and seeing his own mother may say, you look my mother, but you are not my mother. You are an imposter. And the mother gets scared. She is tensed. What has happened to my son? Takes him to the doctor and says that somehow that connection between the emotion and the perception has got segregated, separated. And that's why, though as the perception says you are the mother, but as the emotion is not connected, so he feels that, oh, you are not the real mother. So in spiritual life, through your samadhi, you are going to that state where your perceptions has got totally separated from your emotions, because you know it's all mere, this projection, it's not real. But this has a permanent effect. It in no way can again delude you. But through some drug, for the time being, if the emotion center has got separated from your perception, why people resort to drug? You will find when they are in extreme pressure for performance. Those who are, there's famous singers, sometimes they resort to drug because they get tense when they see that huge audience. And the drug helps them to the cutoff, that perception from their emotion. Now there is no fear. Though the audience is there, fear is not there. Because the drug has helped for that temporary disjoining of these two centers. Now he feels light. And he starts performing. But the effect of the drug is over. And then again, he's the same person. So the drug can make you euphoric. For the time being, it can give you that exaltation. But it cannot result in liberation. Liberation can that sever, that the disjoining of all your attachments from this world of what you see, this world of phenomenal existence, can happen only through this spiritual realization. And then that is a permanent. So now you will understand that why Shankaracharya is saying that neither by Aushadhi, even in Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna gives even for every sloka there is some Sri Ramakrishna's allegory also. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very funny example. What he says, a magician was showing some magic. He was just speaking some abracadabra and something that as his words of deluding others. And in the process, his tongue got stuck in the palate in such a way that the breathing stopped. He went into a state of kumbhaka. It was a forced kumbhaka, and he appeared to be like a dead person because he was inert, his breath stopped, but his life was suspended. In that way, the yogis actually can sustain and suspend their life in a suspended animation state with the tongue, by stopping their breath. It's a particular mudra, and it happened accidentally. And the people thought he is dead, they buried him. And then, years later, someone to plow the land was just removing the soil, and they saw that a person is sitting there, and they thought him to be yogi in samadhi. They brought him out, and because of all this movement, suddenly the tongue came out. And the moment the tongue came out, when you are in that the suspended animation state, it's just like coma. And when you're in coma, you forget the time where you're in coma. When you come back, you will be just, your memory will be revived of the time when you went to that coma. In between, there is as if no memory of it. So for suspended animation also, it's the same thing. The moment, for years together, he was in that state. But the moment the tongue just got disjoined from his palate and he started breathing, the first word came out is abracadabra, tadabra. So that's the word. Means there is no realization. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is in a very funny way is saying. That what happened? It gives an appearance of realization. It is a forceful way of disjoining. But actual nothing has happened. So that's what Shankaracharya is indicating. That only through realization that the disjoining, that all your attachments falls off. There are thousands of attachments. They all in one go fall off. Only when you go to that realization. And that happens only through aparakshanubhava. In this sloka, that word is very important. That's vina aparakshanubhava. In Sanskrit, these words are wonderful. That there is a state of aparaksha. What paraksha means? All our perceptions are paroksha. They are not aparaksha. Aparaksha is negation of paroksha. What is paroksha? Para aksha. Aksha speaks of eyes, speaks of perceptions. Para. That all our perceptions are with the help of mind and senses. The conscious principle coming in association with the mind and senses is making all the perceptions possible. What I see is not the thing outside. As we gave that example so many times. When the red flower, it is not red. The color is not there outside. It is a particular wavelength of light which is being reflected by that flower that touches your eye. The function of the light stops there. It has no color. It is just a particular wavelength. And that wavelength of light, but the moment it touches your retina, the light doesn't enter your brain, where you are perceiving the color. The function of the light stops once it touches the retina. It doesn't enter into your brain. The moment it touches the retina, it gets converted into a nerve current. It is like electric current with a particular frequency. When it reaches the brain and it reaches the so-called color or this color perceptions, and we say color perception, but it is not perceiving any color. It is just a nerve current in the dark brain. The moment it touches that color perception center, comes in association with it, the color is projected from your brain. It is produced there. It is already there. It was hidden. There's this particular frequency immediately makes it manifest. Potential becomes manifested. That color manifests, projects through your senses. How it manifests? Because behind your mind, this brain is just the organ of the mind. Behind your mind, the consciousness is there. Consciousness is activating the mind. And then this mind is projecting that red color. It goes and envelops the flower to give you a feeling that it is red. So it is a consciousness which is being projected as the redness of the flower. Whatever you see is just the projection of the consciousness. Just like in the computer screen, whatever you see is just the projection of the bias voltage. That bias voltage is 1. It is a constant current. Now, what is happening in the integrated circuit there? This constant current is being obstructed sometimes it is allowed. That's why the language of computer is only binary, 1 and 0. What it speaks, sometimes it is on, sometimes it is off. Nothing else. So sometimes it's getting avarana, and this avarana is creating vikshepa. That current, that's the bias voltage, appears as all the words, drawings, whatever you see, there's a world of virtual reality in the screen. It is only that bias voltage which is getting converted. Similarly, the conscious principle is being projected as this world of name and form, as all the 5 senses. It's a wonderful projector. The mind is a projector which is projecting the consciousness to appear as this world of name and form. So it is paroksha. The consciousness in association with the mind and sciences is creating this world of name and form, whatever I see, perceiving. So all our perceptions are paroksha. Para means something apart from me. This mind and senses are like the goggles which I am wearing. And this goggles is tainting my vision. When I go to that absolute realization, spiritual realization, the mind falls off. I go beyond the mind. And that is this uniqueness of Vedanta. They say there is a state beyond the mind. In Western philosophy, the self is equated with the mind. In Vedanta, they say that in Western philosophy, the Descartes say that you think, therefore you are. So they are equating the thought with the self. And Vedanta say you are. The real you are when you are beyond your thought. That is chitta vritti nirodha. When all the thought has subsided, then you can realize. So this aparoksha, this word is very interesting. That without that aparoksha anubhava, where the mind and senses has fallen off, the perception is no more through the mind and senses. The self is as if realizing the self itself. Aparoksha. There is no other thing apart from you to assert your existence. So when you go to that state, then only you can realize that ultimate reality of the identity of the Brahma and the Atma. Just by this Brahma Shabda, constantly saying, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, it is in no way going to help me to that, to attain that state. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that you may go on saying, I am Brahman, but if even a small thorn, if it pricks you, you feel the prick of the pain of that prick. So because you have not realized, it's just a mere word for you. So that's the idea which Shankaracharya is saying. Everywhere is all the slokas, from the 56 to the 66, the idea is that ultimate realization is not a matter of belief, is not a matter of professing, is not a matter of words, it's a realization. So it's Brahma Shabdaina Muchyate. Just by that some have, as Sri Ramakrishna says, some have heard of milk, some have seen milk. But what is needed is to drink milk and get nourished by it. So if you just hear the word Brahma, pronounce the word Brahma, that doesn't make you one with Brahma. That nourishing, that's drinking it, getting nourished means to realize. Once you have realized, then you are nourished. Nothing in the world can affect you. You have gone beyond the delusion. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 62nd. The 63rd and the 64th, again, with the help of some allegory, they will explain the same idea. Shankaracharya is going to explain the same idea. What he's saying, akritva drishya vilayam agyatva tattvam atmana brahma shabdai kuto mukti matra falai nrinam. So what is? Without causing the object universe to vanish. Akritva drishya vilayam. It happens only in that state of realization when you have gone beyond the mind and the body. The mind has fallen off. You have gone to that realization. That interval has come in your life where there is no projection. Akritva drishya vilayam. Agyatva tattvam atmana. And when that projection stops, then only you know your Atman. You are one with it. Without that, Brahma Shabdai Kuto Mukti. Just by the word, pronunciation of the word of Brahma, how can you attain liberation? Mukti Matra Phala Indrinam. There is no, for the human being, there cannot be any liberation just by professing. Just by professing that I am Brahman, just professing to that idea that I am Brahman. It cannot be. Akritva Shatru Sangharam. And then he gives an example. Akritva Shatru Sangharam Agatva Khila Bhrusriyam Rajaham iti Shabdanno Raja Bhavitum Arhati. That just without conquering my enemies, without establishing my sovereign rule over the kingdom, just by saying I am the king, can you ever become the king? So that's the idea. So what's the use of saying I am Brahman if a prick of thorn just hurts you? So that's the idea. So the next verse will be highlighting the need for practice, sadhana. So just mere professing won't do. You have to make it a matter of realization through your spiritual endeavor. That's being now stressed in the next mantra. What is saying? Next verse. Aptokting khananam tathopari shiladyukt karshanam swikriting nikshepa samapekshate nahi vahi sabdaistu nirgachati. So, there's a treasure underground without extraction, without extracting it. Where after hearing from some competent instruction that how to extract, you hear, you know the knowledge, and then you extract. This aptok thing means the one who is an exponent, who knows the knowledge of extraction. You hear from him, that is aptok thing. Swikriting speaks of the treasure, which is hidden underground. It requires for its extraction what is needs competent instruction. And then excavation, khananan, and the removal of the stone, shiladyut karshanam. So these are the words which Shankaracharya is using, very poetic. And other such things lying above it, samapekshate. So you remove all the dirt, the soil, and then only you get, finally you grasp the treasure. But it never comes by merely calling it by name. Even Sri Ramakrishna says that we know there is butter in milk. Just by saying, repeating, there is butter in milk, are you going to get the butter? You have to churn it. So here also the same idea. Tattvat Brahmo Vido Padesha. Brahmavid, the one who has the knower of Brahman, the one who realized after hearing his Upadesha, just the way for excavation you hear the words of an exponent person who knows the art of excavation. Here also, the one who is Brahmavid, from him he have heard the instructions. Manana, dhyana devi. This manana speaks of cogitation. Dhyana speaks of nididhyasana. You cogitate upon his words to clarify all your doubts. You develop an intellectual conviction, and then you go for meditation. Dhyana devi labhyate. Because after hearing the instruction, it can be realized only through manana and meditation. Maya karya tirohitam swam amalam tattvam na duryuktibhi. Just by speaking some mere words, duryuktibhi, which is in no way this or resorting to some perverted arguments, duryukti, ukti, perverted arguments. You can never realize Brahman. It can only be run through that process of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Then only the Maya Karya, Tirohitam. The working of the Maya can fall off. Tirohitam means to fall off. Maya Karyam. The word Maya itself is significant. The word Maya means Ma plus Ya. Ma is negation. Ya means Yatha Yatha. That what I am seeing is not the thing as it is. The self is being projected as this world of phenomenal existence. There is nothing. When we say there is nothing, only self, that nothing doesn't mean void. It means no thing. Nothing means no thing. It is only consciousness. There is no thing. This inner, this solid thing. No thing. Nothing. Doesn't mean void. It doesn't mean that it is void. It means no thing. It is only consciousness. As Swami Vivekachudamani used to say, when someone told him that after all, after hearing your lecture, I have got the idea that God is everything. Then immediately Swamiji told that I have never taught that God is everything. What I taught is God alone is. Everything is not. Everything is not. So what I am seeing as everything is because of that ignorance. So Maya, Tirohitam. When you go to, these two can never exist together. As Tulsidas says, Jaha Ram Taha Kam Nahi. Jaha Kam Taha Ram Nahi. Where is Rama, there cannot be lust. Where there is lust, there cannot be Rama. Because when you are seeing consciousness, there is no duality anymore. The world of phenomenal existence has fallen off. How can the question of lust comes, attachment comes, when there is something apart from me? I cannot just desire myself. So that's the idea which has been spoken of, that when you go to that realization, the world of phenomenal existence is no more there. They cannot coexist. So that has tirohita, that has fallen off. How it falls off? When you go to that realization, spiritual realization. And then only the Maya Karya can fall off once for all. And then only you can go to the realization of that pure self, amalam, the self which is beyond all mala, beyond all tent, pure self. That you realize, the self which is beyond all tents, that you realize, not by just mere perverted arguments. Dur yuktu bhi. And after saying this, the final conclusion comes, tasmat sarva prayatnena bhavavanda vimuktate swaireva yatna kartavya rogadaviva panditai. So what is the kartavya? What is our duty? Therefore the wise should, as in the case of a disease, what we do? We personally strive by all means to get rid of the disease by following the prescription of the doctor. The medicine which he prescribes, the diet which he prescribes, by following the diet and the medicine, I try to get rid of the disease. So what it speaks of, when I am diseased, I have the desire to get rid of the disease. That speaks of mumukshutvam, the desire to be free. That is mumukshutvam. And when you have the desire, now you are also, along with the desire, you should have faith in the doctor. Shraddha, that he is an authentic doctor, he has studied the authentic medical science, and whatever he prescribes is going to work for me. If I don't have that faith, how will I resort to the medicine and prescription? I will never do that. So Shraddha and Mumukshutvam, these two are required, which has been spoken of in this verse 66. That once you have now realized that just by mere argumentation, just by mere discussion, just by mere deliberation of the scriptures, I can never achieve anything apart from a little entertainment. If I really then want to get out of this bondage, then what I have to do? That I have to strive assiduously. My endeavor should be sincere. I should have the purity, patience, perseverance that peace should dawn in my life. And that is possible, again, when I have faith in the words of the scriptures and in the faith in the words of the Guru. So just the way a patient, having faith in the words of the doctor, resorts to the medicine to free himself from the disease, the same way the mumukshu, the one who yearns for liberation, has to follow the process of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Sravana can result in Manana only if you have Shraddha. When I hear the words of the Guru, if I don't have faith, what I will do? I will simply reject those words. But if I have faith, what I will do? That what my master have told cannot be wrong. The deficiency is in me. I most probably do not have the correct understanding to understand the true implication of his words. So from this humility, you will do manana. You will try to cogitate upon the word. So from Shraddha only, Sravana can get matured into manana. Otherwise not. So then from that manana, once that intellectual ideas now get cleared up, you develop a conviction. Now your real meditation starts. You meditate on your conviction, and that will take you to the realization. And that's the only way by which you can get liberated. There is no other way. So the sanam and bonam of this today's discussion from the 56 to the 60, that self-realization alone can take us to the state of liberation. Not mere belief in particular doctrines and dogma, not mere discussion on the scriptural truths, but all those belief and all our discussions and deliberations should take us to the state of realization. Then alone they are meaningful. Otherwise they are of no use. So with this we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.